Good morning, Year 3. You'll be very pleased to hear that Pod did decide to let Arrietty come borrowing with him. She's come out from under the clock, run across the front hallway, and while Pod is pulling some of the bristles out of the doormat to make a brush for Homily to clean the dishes with, he's let Arrietty go out of the open front door and into the garden. If I got down to the path, Arrietty thought, I might not get up again. So for some moments she sat quietly. After a while she noticed the shoe scraper. Arrietty, called Pod softly, where have you got to? I just climbed down the shoe scraper, she called back. He came along and looked down at her from the top of the step. That's all right, he said after a moment's stare, but never climb down anything that isn't fixed like. Supposing one of them big people came along and moved the shoe scraper, where would you be then? How would you get up again? It's heavy to move, said Arrietty. Maybe, said Pod, but it is movable. See what I mean? There's rules, lass, and you've got to learn. This path, Arrietty says, goes round the house, and the bank does too. Well, said Pod, what of it? Arrietty rubbed one kid shoe on a rounded stone. It's my grating, she explained. I was thinking that my grating must be just round the corner. I was just thinking, suppose I went round the corner and called through to Mother. Then she'd see I was all right. Well, said Pod, go quickly then and call. I'll watch for you here. Not loud, mind. Arrietty ran round the corner and right up to the iron grill. Mother, she called. Mother! At the third call, Homily came. Her hair was coming down, and she carried, as though it were heavy, the screw lid of a pickle jar filled with soapy water. Oh, she said in an annoyed voice, you didn't half give me a turn. What do you think you're up to? Where's your father? Arrietty jerked her head sideways. Just there by the front door. She was so full of happiness, and out of Homily's sight her toes danced on the green moss. Here she was on the other side of the grating. Here she was at last on the outside, looking in. Let me stay down, she pleaded, just a bit longer, just till you finish borrowing. They're all out, except her. Mother said so. She'd say anything, grumbled Pod, when she wants something quick. How does she know she won't take it into her head to get out of that bed of hers and come downstairs with a stick? How does she know Mrs. Driver hasn't stayed home today with a headache? How does she know that boy ain't still here? What boy? Asked Arrietty. Pod looked embarrassed. What boy? He repeated vaguely and then went on, or maybe Crampfurl the gardener. Crampfurl isn't a boy, said Arrietty. No, he isn't, said Pod. Not in a manner of speaking. No, he went on as though thinking this out. No, you wouldn't call Crampfurl a boy. Not as you might say a boy exactly. Well, he said, beginning to move away. Stay down a bit if you like, but stay close. Arrietty watched him move away from the step, and then she looked about her. Oh, glory! Oh, joy! Oh, freedom! The sunlight, the grasses, the soft moving air, and halfway up the bank, where it curved round the corner, a flowering cherry tree. Below it on the path lay a stain of pinkish petals, and at the tree's foot, pale as butter, a nest of primroses. Arrietty threw a cautious glance towards the front doorstep, and then, light and dancy in her soft red shoes, she ran towards the petals. They were curved like shells and rocked as she touched them. Pod came again to the top of the step and looked along the path. Don't you go far, he said after a moment. Seeing his lips move, she smiled back at him. She was too far away already to hear his words. An ant came hurrying in a busy zigzag. She danced in front of it to tease it and put out her foot. Two birds came down, quarrelling shrilly into the grass below the tree. One flew away, but Arrietty could see the other among the moving grass stems above her on the slope. Cautiously she moved towards the bank and climbed a little nervously in among the green blades. As she parted them gently with her bare hands, drops of water plopped on her skirt. On she went, pulling herself up now and again by rooty stems into this jungle of moss and wood violet and creeping leaves of clover. The bank was warm, almost too warm here within the shelter of the tall grass, and the sandy earth smelled dry. Standing up, she picked a primrose. The pink stalk felt tender and living in her hands and was covered with silvery hairs, and when she held the flower like a parasol between her eyes and the sky, she saw the sun's pale light through the veined petals. She knew about woodlice. On a piece of bark she found a woodlouse, and she struck it lightly with her swaying flower. It curled immediately and became a ball bumping softly away downhill and among the grass roots. Romilly always scolded her if she played with woodlice, because she said they smelled of old knives. She lay back among the stalks of the primroses, and they made a coolness between her and the sun. And then, sighing, she turned her head and looked sideways up the bank among the grass stems. Startled, she caught her breath. Something had moved above her on the bank. Something had glittered. Arrietty stared. It was an eye, or it looked like an eye, clear and bright like the colour of the sky, an eye like her own, but enormous.